My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm Robert. In every episode, we're bringing you faith stories and fishing memories from some amazing members of the fishing community.
So join us as we shed a positive light on all things faith and fishing. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam, and I am at the moment flying solo on this episode. Robert is at a basketball game or ball game, I should say. I don't know if it's basketball or not. I'm assuming basketball. I think it's basketball season, but for high school, I'm out of the loop on high school sports right now. But so. Hopefully, if it doesn't end up going into overtime and they get back in time, don't end up doing any kind of special event afterwards, he may be joining us later. But if not, y'all are stuck with me, and I'm sorry. But yeah, as far as we always try to open up with some sort of housekeeping announcement or anything. I will just say, we always like to make sure that we say thank you to our sponsors. Savior Outdoors, Omnia Fishing, Atollas, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, and Jade's Jigs. We are so thankful for your support and everything you do for us and for our listeners. And speaking of listeners, y'all are awesome. Whenever I just did the math to combine our podcast platform and YouTube, we are over 9,000 total plays, 9,066. So y'all are awesome. Whether this is the first episode you've ever listened to or whether you haven't missed an episode, so thankful that you're taking the time to listen. It means the world to us. So thank you so much for that. Without further ado, let's go ahead and thank a couple of those sponsors officially and get our guest in here.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on-the-water courses and demos. And we'll even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check out shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
If a fly rod is your weapon of choice, check out Atollas. Their fly caddy is the most convenient way to get your favorite flies to the water or just keep them handy by clipping it to your hat, truck visor, backpack, rod case, or just whatever. You can also bundle it up with flies from independent fly tires that Atollas has teamed up with through their Fly Light project. Choose from bundles specializing in redfish, carp, saltwater, or freshwater. Head over to atollas.co, that's ATOLLAS.co, to get your fly caddy today and use promo code faithnfish15 to save 15% on your order. That's faith the letter N, fish the number 15 at checkout for 15% off. All right, so if you listened to our episode a couple weeks ago with Zach Soulier, we teased this episode. We knew it was coming, so y'all knew it was coming. But we have another one of my houseboat mates from the Dale Hollow Open from Paddle and Fin. We've got the creek crawler on here, Mr. Bryan Slaton. Bryan, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on tonight, man. I'm super stoked.
Absolutely, man. So to get us started, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us who Bryan Slaton is.
My name is Bryan Slaton. I live in Southeast Ohio currently, but grew up and cut my teeth on the creeks and rivers in Southwest Ohio. Been an angler the majority of my life, but I specialize and really, really passionate about the creeks and rivers in particular. I'm starting to get into chasing the largemouth recently these past couple years in the kayak tournaments and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I'm born and raised here in Ohio. Been fishing it really, really hard the past few years. Started my YouTube channel about 3 or 4 years ago, and starting to upload a lot of videos on there, and just having a good time doing it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that YouTube channel real quick. So uh, it's called the Creek Crawler. Kind of tell us how that came to be and what that's all about.
Yeah, so as I said, I started my channel. It's probably been almost 5 years at this point. Um, I served in the U.S. Navy from 2012 to 2016, and when I got out of the Navy and was going to college, I was like, I wanted something, to do in my spare time, and I was like, well, we have awesome creeks and rivers in Ohio, so you know what, I'm going to specialize in, showcasing what we have to offer anglers here in the state of Ohio. So I've been running around, wading, getting soaking wet in the creeks and rivers, and started my YouTube channel. It started out as Catch and Release, but I changed my name about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I think. I don't know really, but came up with the name Creek Crawler because that's what I do. That's what I love to do. I've been doing it since I was a little kid, just crawling around in the creeks, and I came up with the name, and I was like, you know what, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty slick name. Let's keep that. And I didn't think this name was used, but then once I made my YouTube channel, if you type in creek crawler on Google, it's an actual fly that people use in the creeks and rivers. It's called the creek crawler, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, what the heck? But I stayed with it, and yeah, that's where I am right now on the YouTube journey. And I just passed 7,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and I'm actually working on my video when I met you down in Tennessee. So that's my project right now.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. This guy, if you are into smallmouth content, this is the channel you want to be watching. He's been killing it lately. And yeah, I took my son out fishing Saturday, and where we went, there's a little park near where I work. And I was heading up to actually I went to our tackle shop to drop off that reel that the brakes failed on that
Oh
Dale
yeah.
trip, and we went right by it, and I told him we were going to get some bait whenever we went to the tackle shop, and we were going to go fishing. And I mean, he's eat up with it. I mean,
That's awesome.
he loves it. So he sat there, and we went, and the place I've been there before, but it never really I never really thought about it until this time. I was like, this is exactly the kind of place that the creek crawler would be fishing.
Yes. Was it like a little creek or something running through the park, or?
So it's there's the dam that has like the waterfall,
Oh
and
yeah.
then
Oh yeah.
it goes through, and then there's like this real shallow section with the deeper pools on the opposite
Oh yeah.
side,
That's all
and
me
then
right there.
it just kind of it keeps going. And it's like I'm assuming that you can wade pretty far down that way. I would definitely take a stick with you, but
Yeah.
a walking stick to kind of test the depth before
Right.
you
All the
step.
muck. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and we caught a couple bluegill, and Henry enjoyed sitting there on the bank in the gravel, getting all messy and throwing rocks in the water. And but yeah, we had a good time. But it was definitely the kind of place that I was like, this is the kind of place that I would expect the creek crawler to be hanging
Right.
out. No
Exactly.
smallmouth. I'm sure there's some largemouth in there. Then there were a bunch of guys catfishing.
You got spotted bass over there?
Not in this part of the state yet.
Oh, okay.
So there are certain watersheds that are pretty overrun with them, and they've kind of destroyed the ecosystem there. But
Oh wow.
where I'm at, we're still in pretty healthy fisheries in terms of the spotted bass stuff. So, um, but yeah, so any spotted bass that we would have here would be the Alabama spot, and it would be invasive. So, um,
Right.
But yeah, so uh, you are you're fishing that skinny water. But yeah, we like you said, we met at Dale Hollow. We shared a houseboat, and it's 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 awesome how quick guys with similar interests can just click. And
Hmm.
so like you, me, and Zach, we kind of hit it off pretty well. And uh, we had fun there. That first night we were there, um, we were we were like, there was a little, I don't know,
A little bit
eight.
of competition, tension, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Had a little 8-inch bass that was sitting there hitting shad at the top there at the marina, and all three of us went and grabbed our rods, and we're doing our best to get it on there. And
man, I enjoyed that trip so much. The that houseboat, whatever they call them, these barges with rooms on them. That is so much fun, man. Just getting out, waking up in the morning, your kayak's tied up to the dock right there. You just get in and go. I had so much fun, and we had some awesome conversations on the boat. And tournament, the tournament I did okay. I had a lot of fun, caught some fish, and I was hoping you would have got your first smallmouth, but did that
but
happen?
it did not. No, it did not. So, whenever you went up to the north end of the lake, I did get my first spot, my northern spot. But I went up, and this one was a correct ID. I even texted you to make sure. Uh,
Yeah.
Man, I was so embarrassed. I've been studying fish since I could remember, since before I could talk. I got it wrong.
Hey, hey,
Um,
man, I wasn't trying to be mean or nothing. I was
no,
just like, that's a largemouth.
no, and I was like, no, there's no way. And I zoomed in on the picture on the mouth, and I was like,
Yeah, missed it. Hey, if that river, so the first night I was there just for pre-fishing, I went to the West Fork of the Obey River and I just uploaded that video 6 or 7 days ago on my YouTube channel. If you ever get time, dude, check it out. And next time you go there, possibly float that river because that was stacked with smallmouth, dude. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. But
oh, I plan on it for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
For
man.
sure.
If you go next year, we'll get on the houseboat again or something.
Yep, that's going to depend on when it is. Yeah, the first couple years they did it was on over our anniversary, and
Mm,
then couldn't do that one. But
if they
um,
stick to this same time, it'll be really good. Like I think this was a perfect time. Like the spawn was there, you had pre-spawners, you had fish on beds, which basically I bed fished the second day and caught so many fish on beds. It was ridiculous. That one I told y'all on the boat, I was like, look, I should have just been at the place I went to last year on the first day, and I went there the second day and just laid into them, dude. They was everywhere, and I was all by myself. I was like,
that's awesome.
oh, it was cool.
Yeah, the second day I got I caught a couple of the real little spots that were too small to count, and I fished a little bit, and then I don't know, about 8 o'clock ended up getting off the water. I was like, if I leave within the next few hours, I can make it home before Henry's bedtime. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I got to the ramp, and Zach was already loading up. So I went and had breakfast there at the marina with the paddle and fin crowd. So that was pretty
Oh,
awesome.
nice.
So,
Okay,
heck
that's
yeah,
cool.
man. All right, man. So let's dive into your faith side of it as well. So kind of give us your faith story, man. What is it that you believe in, and how did you come to believe that?
Um, just as my religious beliefs, or
Whatever faith means to you, like whatever your faith side of your life is.
right. Um, Absolutely 100% believe in the Lord and Jesus Christ, and um, thankful for everything that He does in my life. He's worked many miracles in my own life. Um, and he's also produced and created this beautiful planet that we get to enjoy and recreate on. So that's basically where I stand on that. And when I go fishing, it's one of those moments, those times in your life where you can just be completely immersed in the creation. And that's where I find my time to talk and pray and have that connection with you know I'll talk with my grandfather and the people that have passed away in my life. That's just a moment of reflection for me, is when I go out fishing, and it's very special to me. And that's typically why I like to go alone for the most part, because that's just my therapy. That's how I connect with um, the Lord, and that's how I connect with those emotions I've had with people in my life, and all the special things that the Lord's done in my life and provided for me. So
Absolutely. And is that something that you kind of grew up believing or was brought up into, or?
yeah, I've always, my grandparents were I lived with my grandparents um, when I was 14, 15 years old, 16 years old. I moved in with them, and they always took me to church as a kid on Sundays, and that was just routine for us, was going to church on Sundays. Um, now I'm trying to instill that into my family. We try to go to church as much as we can on Sundays. We're in an area in Ohio that's like, there's a church that we like, but it's like 45 minutes away, so it's like a stretch to get there. And but we try to make do and go to some of the local spots too, and just go around. And it's we think we find a lot of value in that in our kids, and teaching them you know, our religion and how we believe in the Lord. And we think it's extremely important for them and their growth spiritually.
Absolutely. All right. So, has there has there been any kind of like, how has the creek crawler and your faith kind of interconnected? Like, how is how has that worked?
Um, how's the creek crawler and my religion connected? I don't know. I think um, that's a great question. The creek is where it all started for me, and that's a place that I grew up exploring by myself, and that's really where, um, as I mentioned earlier, where I found that peace and quiet, and where I found that time to reflect on my life and to appreciate what the Lord has given us. And that's exactly where it originated. So I think that's why the creek crawler name, and I think that's how we put the two together, is just going to my origins and where it all began. So
Heck yeah. All right, man. And for our listeners, sorry if it feels like I'm kind of rushing through this. I'm trying to make sure that I'm respectful of the creek crawler's time, and I kind of, whenever I start focusing on the time, I start going fast. So sorry about that,
oh, that's all
um,
good, man.
but yeah, we'll definitely make sure that we spread things out a little bit here. But um, there are a couple questions before we get too far into some of the fun stuff that I always like to make sure that we ask everybody. And so, what fishing story or memory means the most to you?
What fishing story means the most to me? Hmm. I think there's times where my dad introduced me to fishing in general, especially the creeks in Southwest Ohio. He basically unleashed me in these creeks, and my one of my goals and one of my jobs as a kid was to go out and catch creek chubs and stuff for bait, so that he could use it to catch catfish, and we'd go catfishing the following night or whatnot. And yeah, I think those memories of just having those adventures with him, and him basically introducing me to something that changed my life. So I appreciate everything for that.
Absolutely. And if there's anyone who has not had the pleasure of getting a really little rod or a cane pole or something and going after creek chubs, wading a creek, you need to do that. That
Yes, so
is,
fun.
those are my first memories of fishing. Is my grandpa had a creek in the mountains in North Carolina that we had bamboo poles, and we used little balls of bread, and we
Right.
caught creek chubs
Hey,
all
that's
day
how it
long.
was, man. I didn't make bamboo poles, but we would make our little fishing rods out of just like strong sticks or something, and then we'd tie like 5 inch or 5 feet of fishing line to it with a little hook, and go crawling around in the creek and find like a just little macro invertebrates that we could use for bait and stuff like that, and just improvise. And those are the memories, man. Those are the core memories that I have growing up. Is just being out there and observing my environment and just learning, like lifting up a rock and being like, oh, this might be good bait, and just being self-sufficient and creating a environment where I was able to be independent, I think was super special.
Absolutely. What's the worst thing you've ever gotten bit by creek crawling?
Mm. I've been bitten by a few snakes, mainly my fault because like I was all about like grabbing the snakes and catching them when I was a kid. So I'd always
You're
get
too
bit by
much crocodile hunter.
snakes. Yeah, I get bit by snakes, some turtles, no snapping turtles, just like little painted red ear sliders or whatnot. But I remember getting pinched pretty hard by some big crayfish when I was young too. So I've basically been bitten by every critter in the creek that you can imagine. Like there's nothing that hasn't bit me yet. So
Yeah, I'm there with you on that. I think if I just had to pick one, I'd say the Hellgrammite is probably one of the worst.
never been pinched by Hellgrammite, man.
Those things are those things are rough. Of course, I was the kid that, I always had to pick it up. I always had to pick it up, and I would always ask my dad, "Does it bite?" And his answer
Right.
was always the same. Anything with a mouth bites. And I was the one that it was like, all right, I gotta know how bad it is. So I'd
Yeah.
stick my finger down.
Speaking of, look, I got one of the.
Oh
These are one
yeah.
of the soft plastic Hellgrammites that I use. You been bitten by a big old thing like this? Shoo.
Yep.
Ugh.
Not fun. Not
Got
fun.
some gnarly jaws on them.
Yeah. And they are abundant in the creeks and the mountains of North Carolina. And they are vicious looking things. But there's all kinds of fun stuff whenever you start turning over rocks in those little creeks. I remember we found all kinds of salamanders and, like you said, crayfish of all different sizes, um, and tadpoles and, um, all the dragonfly and mayfly nymphs and damselfly nymphs and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But all kinds of cool things. All right, so whenever you're out fishing with somebody, what's your typical conversation like? What's it centered around?
It depends on who I'm with. Like if it's someone I'm taking out that's somewhat new, it's more like a training session. It's more like me teaching them, what to look for, where to cast, what kind of techniques are going to do great in different situations. But if I'm just out with my buddies, kayak fishing or bank fishing, it's it's just a fun time. Like there's nothing in particular that we talk about. We usually try to keep it fishing related, right? We don't want to bring work or any kind of drama to the water side or to the banks. So it's just one of those times where you can just be positive, and that's what fishing is for me. It's like one of those times in life where you can, it's relaxing, you're out there, it's therapeutic. You're trying to escape, but you're trying to attach yourself as well, if that makes sense. You're trying to escape some of the, craziness of the world, but you're also trying to attach yourself to um, who you are as a person and trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do in life and have those conversations, with your friends.
Absolutely. So if you're taking me out fishing on a creek for the first time and we're waiting, what are you telling me to look for?
Depends on the time of year, but if it's like a springtime, like right now, we go to the creek, we're going to look for some kind of rock, some kind of timber that's fallen down in the water. And basically, you'll either want to cast ahead of that structure about 5 to 6 feet and use the current to drift into the structure, or you cast behind it in the eddy that's behind the rock, where you know how the current's pushing against the rock, and behind the rock is a nice calm spot. Those are typically areas where the smallmouth like to hang out and relax, and they're sitting there using the current to their advantage and just going out and picking stuff up as the current is bringing stuff by. So yeah, that's basically what we look for, and that's what I like to try to teach everyone, is just how the water moves around the environment. Because when you learn how the water moves, you can learn how the fish utilize that water. So that's extremely important, is studying the water, studying the movement of water.
For sure. And what about in the summertime? Because I'm going to imagine that most people who are first starting out and wading, that's going to be when they're going to feel the most comfortable,
Right.
and feel the safest in terms of, I know, where you are, that's probably going to be the safest in terms of it not being flooded. But also in terms of, temperature, it not being too cold,
Hmm.
because the water is going to be cold in a creek compared to, moving water is always going to be colder than stagnant water unless it's from a hot spring.
Hmm.
But so what about in the summertime? Is it going to be the same advice that you give?
You know what? That's what's so entertaining, and that's what's so attractive to moving water, is those fish are typically in the same spots, spring to the summer. Now, when you get into the colder months, that's when those fish kind of look for those deeper holes in the creek. And that's when you're going to have to really get down and dirty and try to find out where these holes that might just be 4 or 5 feet compared to, the foot and a half everywhere else. Um, so basically the same concept in the summer. They're utilizing the structure, they're utilizing hard cover and soft cover. And what I mean by soft cover is shade. Like, so you'll have one side of the creek with trees hanging over and it's a shade bank, and then you'll have a bank on the other side that's all in the sunlight. I try to tell people to focus on that line of shade, because the smallmouth sit in the shade, it's cooler, they have the cover, and then when something comes by in that light side of the creek, they'll come out and ambush it. So focus on that soft cover line of shade. That's super important in the summertime. And summertime, usually the water is a lot lower, a lot more clear. There's a lot more clarity. And these fish are so in tune with their environment, they can hear you. So being stealthy, and yeah, honestly, when I'm in the creek in a super shallow summer, the person I'm with, I'm like, look, we got to whisper. And I'm being dead serious, because these fish can hear your voice through the water. They can hear your voice through the water. They can hear you crushing the gravel 50 yards away upstream. So you have to be very cognizant of your presence, because these fish live in this environment day in and day out. They know when something's up. They know when something's not right. So being super stealthy, long distance casts, looking for shade, looking for that cover, like I said earlier, and you'll find a lot of fish.
Absolutely. And whenever you're wading, do you typically wade upstream and cast upstream, let it drift down, or are you wading downstream?
It don't matter. Um, I can catch fish going downstream. I can catch fish going upstream. Um, Here's a hot tip that I don't really tell a lot of people. So if you're going downstream and you come up on a shallow riffle that's just a few inches deep and it goes into like a 2 or 3 foot section along riprap, I will stand on that riffle up above everything and start moving the rocks around, creating that mud. And what happens is, when that mud and all those little bugs and stuff are floating down the creek, you'll see all the shiners just going crazy. And then all of a sudden you got your smallmouth are like, what's going on? Something's got these fish fired up. Now that smallmouth's out there chasing the minnows that are chasing all the mud and all the little insects that you just messed up in the shallow riffle above them. That's a pretty cool. I've done this multiple times in my life where I've done that. And my buddies will not believe me, but I'll sit there. I'll just rub my foot into the shallow riffle, get a little mud thing going down the stream. All of a sudden, these little minnows come popping up looking for those little bugs. I'm like, throw your lure over there, or I'll throw a hellgrammite or something. Get hooked up.
Absolutely, and I will say, if you're fishing like the bank on a lake or something like that, and you get caught in like a little stick or a branch or something, and you whenever you are pulling your lure out, it like rolls that stick. Don't assume automatically that spot's blown up, because it'll do the same thing. It'll
Mm-hmm.
get those bluegill and other things fired
Right.
up, and the bass are over there, because there's an ecosystem there that just got disturbed, and everything's trying to get away,
Mm-hmm.
and so those bass are like, they're picking off stuff. So yeah.
Another cool tip I like to tell folks when you're in a creek, especially in a creek that's present with common carp, watch your common carp, because those schools of common carp will have the biggest bass in those holes following the common carp. Because guess what the carp does? It goes around sifting through the substrate. It's scaring crayfish, scaring little darters. Those smallmouth know exactly what they're doing, and I've observed this so many times out in the field. Of all right, there's 5 or 6 carp there. Oh wait, that one's got a black tip on its tail. Oh, that's a 19-inch smallmouth hanging out with all this carp. And you throw your crawdad presentation over there and just give it one good jerk through that school of carp, and that smallmouth will come over there and just engulf it, dude. So just be observant of all the other species, not just your quarry that you're going after.
Absolutely, and same goes for ducks. I mean, obviously, make sure that you're good at casting. Don't get hooked up in the duck. But I have watched the same thing with, a duck, in the weeds eating something, and like it's spooking stuff, and it's
Right.
coming out, and there's a bass or two right there behind that duck that's just picking off the stuff
Exactly.
that gets this spooked out. So yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And so absolutely, like you said, make sure that the fish that you're going after isn't the only thing that you're paying attention to, for sure. All right, man. Well, I wanted to make sure that we got to go through our "What's Your Favorite" segment. That's a fan favorite. It feels weird saying fan favorite. I don't know how I
A
feel about
listener, a
that.
listener favorite.
Listener favorite.
Yeah.
It's a listener favorite for sure, and it's one of my favorite parts too. So wanted to make sure that we left plenty of time for it, just in case you were somebody who liked to expand on your answers. So let's say thank you to a couple sponsors, and then we'll jump into that.
Yeah.
Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality handcrafted lures, and has been for 30 years, right here in the U.S. Using all-metal components, owner and gamakatsu hooks, and silicone or frog hair skirts, Mr. B is pumping out some awesome spinner baits, jigs, buzz baits, underspins, and more, including some of the most unique bladed jigs on the market. To fill up your tackle box, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, and use promo code faithnfishnpod1x10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. That's faith the letter N, fish the letter N, POD, so Faith and Fishing Pod, just like our Instagram handle, 1x10. If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs has everything you need and more, and it's all eco-friendly and lead-free. With an awesome selection of baits and colors, they've got a variety of techniques covered for you. Finesse jigs, underspins, Nico weights, Ned rigs, and more are all waiting for you at jadesjigs.com. And while you're there, use promo code FNF10 for 10% off your purchase. That's jadesjigs.com and promo code FNF10 for 10% off. All right, so to get us started, what is your favorite scripture?
Favorite scripture? You're gonna put me on the spot here. I think where I'll be honest, I don't know where this is at in the Bible, but where the disciples came from. I think that is the coolest part of where he found his disciples, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but most of them were fishermen.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. A big chunk of them were.
yeah, so I've always thought that was super interesting how he spoke and said, "Be fishers of men." And I don't know where that is in the scripture, but that's one of the things I've always kept in the back of my head.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that too. And it's funny. In like ensemble movies and stuff, I always love like the like montage that they use to introduce everybody. Like in Ocean's 11, they kind of go through and like introduce each member and what they do and everything, or like in different kinds of like superhero movies and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I love that there's one of those in the Bible too. All right, so what is your favorite story from the Bible?
Probably, it would have to be the empty grave. How we celebrated Easter and the resurrection and everything like that.
Absolutely. I think my favorite part of that particular story is from John's uh from John's gospel, where he and Peter like race, because he's so focused on that race, and like so whenever they get there, it's um like John keeps referring to himself as so throughout John's gospel, he doesn't refer to himself as John. He refers to himself as the disciple that Jesus loved, and he's like the disciple who Jesus loved, who got there first.
A little competitive, huh?
Little bit, little bit, little bit. Um, all right. So, what is I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I always say that, and I always get surprised. But what is your favorite fish to catch?
This is smallmouth bass. So here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. Hybrid striped bass are super fun, super powerful fish. Um, but I have to give it to the smallmouth just because they weren't created in a lab, so to speak. So I'll have to give it to the smallmouth.
Yeah, for sure. And that is something we did not really touch on, was your kind of background in the scientific side of things and the fisheries side. So, um, ha- have you ever been involved in the creation of a new species of bass, like
So no, but
a fish in general?
I have been involved in the process of collecting sauger um, gametes. They're milt. So what happens, the Division of Wildlife, they collect the sauger sperm and then they use the walleye female eggs and they create saugeye for the state of Ohio. So I have been involved in that process a couple times.
So if you do it the other way around, do they end up being waller?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know because they always use they use the female eggs for the saugeye, and they also use the female eggs for the hybrid striped bass, and they use the male white bass, right? See, I'm getting all mixed up. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just throwing that out there. I didn't know if I'm sure that somebody a lot smarter than me did a lot of research to know which direction was the produce the
The
best fish for stocking. But
yeah, the term is called hybrid vigor. So whenever you make a hybrid species, they grow super fast. They're super mean, um, but they're also good to eat too. Saugeye and hybrid striped bass are really good to eat.
absolutely. All right, so smallmouth took it for your favorite fish to catch. What's your favorite fish to fish for? So like your favorite target.
Mm, I don't know. I think my favorite fish is a smallmouth, but you can't deny the hybrid striped bass, the power behind a hybrid striped bass. Because when you hook into a hybrid, that's 4 or 5 pounds. That fish will run your drag. It'll test you. It'll test you as an angler, and it'll test your gear too. So if you're not ready to get hit by like a 5 to 6 pound, sometimes 8, 9 pound hybrid striped bass, it'll ruin your gear. break your
Sure.
line, it's going to take your chatterbait that you just spent $12 on. Like, yeah, those are cool fish to go after.
Absolutely. All right, your favorite fish to eat?
Salmon. I'm a huge sushi fan, so I love salmon sushi. Salmon
Okay,
sushi, just a little piece of salmon on rice. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely, man. I'm not a huge salmon fan whenever it's cooked, but man, I love it raw.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, because just out of curiosity, is there a particular salmon that is better than the others to you?
I honestly, I don't know the species of salmon that the sushi places here in Columbus. That's where I've been eating a lot of sushi lately. When I go on lunch break at work, I'll go grab couple pieces of sushi. But I don't know what kind of salmon that is. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay. I'm just curious. There's a lot of different kinds. So,
Yeah, you got
yeah.
your cohos, your kings, your silvers, and all that
Yeah.
crazy stuff. So
And you got, I know y'all have, is it kings that y'all have there in the Great Lakes that were those
uh
introduced?
no, I know we have steelhead for sure. As far as the salmon species that's in, so Lake Erie is the one that's attached to us. I don't know what species. It might be a king. I don't think so. But we have steelhead runs that are pretty popular up in northwest Ohio.
Okay.
Super popular steelhead runs. So you can go up there and catch 10, 12-pound steelhead. So
Okay. If she's listening, Susie will let us know. She's done some salmon tournaments up there in one of the Great Lakes. I don't remember which one, but
oh, okay.
so all right. Let's see. Your favorite. All right. So we're talking about food. That's how I remember. That's how I keep it going. Your favorite fishing snack.
Favorite fishing snack. Let's go with gummies. I like fruit gummies. Like
Yummies.
the what is it? The Welch's fruit snacks. Fruit snacks. I love fruit snacks, man. Fruit gummy
Okay,
snacks.
absolutely. My coworkers are obsessed with the Welch's fruit snacks like that. Me, I'm a Mott's guy. It's all about the consistency and the texture for me.
Yeah,
But
I understand that fully, man.
what's your secret to keeping them from melting when you're out on the water?
Literally eating them within 30 minutes of me being on the water. I have melted a couple bags, and I'm like, dang, man. So like before the sun hits noon, right? You just eat them before it gets too hot outside.
You would say something like that right as soon as I took a drink.
Almost spit it out on the computer.
Almost got my microphone very wet. All right, so don't need GPS coordinates or secret spots or anything, but what's your favorite body of water to fish?
There's a big river in Southwest Ohio. That's where I like to fish. Southwest Ohio. There's a pretty large river system that's where I cut my teeth. That's where I grew up, and on that river and the tributaries that go into that river. Super special place, in my opinion. I think it's um, one of the best fisheries we have in Ohio. It actually is one of the best smallmouth fisheries in Ohio. So
Okay, absolutely. And I meant to ask whenever we were talking about food, did you end up finishing that entire box lunch on the water?
no,
That,
you know what happened to my box lunch. Did I
no,
show you what happened to my box lunch?
no, you did not.
Uh, so I don't know what happened, but the box tipped over and the cup of ranch opened up, and literally everything was just drenched in ranch. My sandwich, my everything was just ranch.
I
I think I ended up eating the carrot because it was already covered in ranch. I just ate the carrot.
oh yeah, you did tell me that about that, yeah. Man.
I was upset, man. I was like super stoked. We paid like $12 to get that box of lunch, and I was like, I opened it up, everything was soaked with ranch. I was like, oh.
Well, I mean, there are worse things for your food to be covered in.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. It was like I said, I picked some stuff, like some of the sandwich and the carrot that was already doused in ranch. I was just like, oh, I was gonna dip it in ranch anyways. Just like just eat it.
All right. So let's see. Where are we? We did spot or your favorite body of water. So your favorite lure to throw.
Favorite lure. Right now, it's the 5-inch trace by 6 cents, that swim bait that I showed you on the boat. Um, I've I've been wearing fish out the past couple months with this lure, and that's my hot lure right now. So the 5-inch trace by 6 cents.
Absolutely, and that thing looks good in the water, man. It
Yeah,
does.
I was catching fish right off the dock right there on it. It was cool.
Yeah, I haven't ventured into the hard bodied swim bait game yet. I've got a couple that are like, what's the Academy brand, that H2O Express or whatever it is, that
Hmm.
was like, well, this looks pretty cool for $7. I'll give it
Right.
a shot. And then like I threw it a couple of times. It's like I have no clue what I'm doing, and I don't really feel like learning it right now. So I'm gonna put this back.
I've only had it for a few months now. Just basically, and that's what's cool about fishing in the creeks is the clear systems. You can watch your bait and see what it's doing, and then you can also watch the fish come out of the rocks and chase. Like in my last video, I got a couple fish to literally eat that thing right next to the kayak, just like twitching it and playing off of their reaction, you know? And that's what's pretty cool, is just fishing it like an injured bait fish. And that's how I've been doing it, and it's been catching a lot of fish for me.
Heck yeah, man. All right, so I think this is last but not least, your favorite time of year to fish.
It'd have to be right now, like late April, early May here in Ohio. The smallmouth are starting to spawn in the creeks and rivers. Bed fishing in the creeks and rivers is so much fun, especially in the creeks where the water's crystal clear. You can observe so much of their behavior during the spawn. Um, Sometimes I'll just sit and watch fish, do their thing. The male will go over there, fan the bed. The female will come over there, lay some eggs, and then give it a couple of days, and he's locked in, and you can go back and catch him on the bed. And be careful when you're doing it. Don't sit there and catch it 5 times. Catch it once. Look at it and let him go, and don't disturb anything. But it's super fun to bed fish. I love bed fishing in the creek and rivers. It's so much fun.
Heck yeah, man. All right, well, we are going to start wrapping things up. What do you have coming up next for the creek crawler?
I'll be going to my first time, which is crazy because I live here. I'm going up to Lake Erie next weekend, the 20th, competing in a kayak tournament for the Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail. I'm super stoked for that. The West and East Harbors event. Everyone's saying the bite is on fire right now. So I'm super excited to get out there and fish the northern part of Ohio that I really don't have a lot of experience in. Trying to grow my channel. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers this year. We might be able to make it happen. We might be able to get close, but
Absolutely. Where are
really,
you now?
really, 7,125 or something like that.
All
So I
right.
need a
So
few. I need a few more thousand.
if you're listening to this and you're not subscribed, go do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I welcome anyone. Come to the channel. Try see if you can learn anything. Hopefully, I can teach you something along the way. If you got smallmouth creeks, rivers around your house, um, super stoked about getting people out there and fishing places that normally a lot of people wouldn't fish, and just igniting that spark. That's what I wanted to do on my YouTube channel, and I think I've done that so far. But yeah, some tournaments coming up, more videos for the YouTube channel. I got my Dale Hollow. Actually, I'm working on my Dale Hollow day 1, day 2 event right now. It should be up in the next couple of days on my YouTube channel. So that's pretty cool. You get to see me sight fish some pretty nice largemouth, and you can actually see them coming up and looking at my leech that I'm just sitting there dangling near the bed and they're coming up and just inhaling it. Like I got super close to a bunch of them, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, that's what I got going for me so far.
Awesome. And wanted to give you an opportunity to shout out any sponsors or supporters, kind of give you an open floor to say thank you to whoever you want to say thank you to.
Yeah, first and foremost, want to thank the Lord Jesus Christ. I want to thank my family, my wife, my kids support me and my YouTube journey because it does take a lot of time away. I work full time. I'm trying to make content at the same time. I really want to go that direction in a career path. I think that's my calling. I really think that's my calling. So we're going to try to put a lot of effort towards there. I want to thank Waterland, 6 Cents, Nico Baits, and Vance Outdoors. They support the channel. They supply me with some of the best baits and gear that I need to get out there and produce these videos on the YouTube channel. And I want to say thank you to everyone that watches my channel and dedicates time and investing their time, because that's the most important thing we have on earth, right? Is our time and where we spend our time. It's extremely important. So I'm very blessed and thankful for the people that watch my YouTube channel.
Absolutely. And speaking of the YouTube channel, if our listeners want to follow your adventures, follow you on social media, watch the YouTube videos, all of that good stuff, go ahead, plug all those socials. Tell us how we find you.
Yep. Go to YouTube. If you put in Creek Crawler, pretty sure it'll pop up right there on the top of the YouTube search, or Ohio Creek Fishing. You'll probably see my channel, a couple of my videos on there. Same thing as Instagram. So I basically just focus on the YouTube and Instagram side of things. And the Instagram is the Creek Crawler as well. So that's where you can find me on the socials.
Awesome. Well, Bryan, man, thank you for coming on the show. Had a blast, and it was awesome to reconnect with you and kind of reminisce. And I am going to be doing my best to get out on some creeks this summer. I've been missing it, so I'm looking forward to. I think I might have found an access for me, so I'm excited to explore.
Heck yeah, man. Well, thank you for having me on. I had a lot of fun tonight. Awesome interview. I appreciate it, Cam. And I had a great time meeting you at Dale Hollow, and hopefully we see each other again next year, and hopefully we can get you on a smallmouth there.
Heck yeah, man. All right. Thank you, man.
Yep. See ya.
A huge selection and crazy fast shipping is already enough to turn heads as an online tackle shop, but Omnia Fishing sets themselves apart with their ambassador program. With Omnia, you can send in fishing reports for your local lakes that recommend baits, structure, tactics, and gear. And when another angler takes your advice and purchases something from your report, you get credit for it to spend at Omnia. The best part means that with Omnia Fishing, you can shop by lake and purchase baits and gear that are proven to work where you're fishing. To get started, go to omniafishing.com and use promo code FNF15 to save 15% on your first order.
Few things ruin your day on the water as bad as losing gear. But with the retrieval devices for fishing rods, action cams, bow fishing bows, and more from Save Your Outdoors, you don't have to let dropping your stuff ruin your day because you can get it back. The pressure-sensitive filter keeps water from rain and quick dips in the water out, but it lets water in when your gear goes overboard to release a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back. Go to SaveYourOutdoors.com to learn more and try some for yourself, and use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% on your order. That's SaveYourOutdoors.com and promo code FNFP15. Another huge thank you to Bryan for coming on the show and sharing his story with us and sharing his excitement over creeks and small water with us. If you want to follow along with his adventures, I will leave all of his links in the show notes as usual. So make sure that you go subscribe to his YouTube channel and give him a follow. That is going to be all I've got for this episode. So let's go ahead, close it out in a prayer, and that'll do us. God, thank you so much for coming into this podcast and just kind of coming into the lives of everyone that's listening. Thank you for every listener. Thank you for everyone who's listening right now. I ask that you bless their lives and kind of just, I always say it, put on a show in their life. And thank you for Bryan. Thank you for what he means to so many, and for all of the content that he's putting out, and the instruction that he's putting out, and thank you for the person that he is on and off the water. And pray that you meet everyone where they are right now, whatever it is that they're going through. Pray that you continue to comfort the Dillon family, and pray that you continue to just shower blessings on this podcast and on all of our listeners. We love you, and it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. All right, y'all, that is going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by Cam Steele and Robert Randolph, and is sponsored by Savior Outdoors, Jay's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, Atollas, and Omnia Fishing. Don't forget to join the Facebook community, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.